A, dig, but B, follow my instincts. I'm like, how do I feel in this suit? What parts of myself does it bring out? How do I subvert expectations from what we think we're going to get with a person like this to who he actually is?
Hi Nathan, how are you doing today?
Really good. How about you?
I'm doing good as well. So, my first question for you is just what was it like getting back into the character for the final season of The Boys?
It was like nostalgic. It was a little sad, because it's the last season and like you come in with like all the experience and all the knowledge and of the first four. It's only going to go on for so long, and there's like a gratefulness you have and a joy, but also it's going to end and it's tough.
For sure. And the character, obviously, over the seasons is mostly masked. At first, doesn't say a lot. So, what has portraying this character taught you kind of about storytelling without words and without your face being seen?
What it's taught me is that it's so important from an acting perspective to have a clear want, to have inner thoughts, to have opinions about things, and I think, as an actor, it's so easy to just kind of rely on the words and get lost in the words or your face. But when you don't have that, it's like, what are like the structures that actually make up a character? Like when you're not doing anything, how do you still stay compelling in some way? So it's really forced and allowed me to really explore those questions and connect to like the deeper underlying things that make a character alive.
And over the seasons, we as an audience watching have learned more and more about Black Noir and, his story. So, how was your approach to playing him different from when you first, got the script and knew that part of the character to where we see him now in the final season?
I think, with Noir One, it's like I had to A, dig, but B, follow my instincts. I'm like, how do I feel in this suit? What parts of myself does it bring out? How do I subvert expectations from what we think we're going to get with a person like this to who he actually is, right? And then when we get to season four and we're dealing with a new noir, it's like, yes, it's a totally different person, but we're also building on this foundation of this noir we know and we're expecting. So how can I again subvert expectations of what we think we're going to get, what we think we're going to see, and how do I flip that, right? So it's like, okay, if New Noir was stoic and badass, and he had aura and like he just had the swagger that you're like, oh, cool, like this guy could cut you up in a second, you know? Then how can I create something different with New Noir? And so when with OG Noir being experienced, New Noir was inexperienced. With OG Noir being okay with killing and like no, like totally fine with it. New Noir was like, I don't know if I want to do this. How do I do this? Right. And so, like, cool versus a little bumbling, stoic versus like, no, 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 I can't stop, and like even just that energy and that expressiveness. It's like this is New Noir. Old Noir was like very stoic. New Noir was very much more animated, right? And so just playing off the foundation of Noir One and kind of finding the contrast of how he could Noir Two could be different.
And in this final season, looking back at your time as Black Noir, both versions, what would you say kind of defines him the most by the end?
So I think when you look at two Noirs, I think there are a lot of similarities and parallels. Number one, Noir One is an actor who has this ambition to be in movies, to be Eddie Murphy. And he's thwarted by his teammate who doesn't want him rising above him, right? His teammate threatens him, says, I'm going to put you in the ground if you ever try to move on up again. Noah stands up for himself, has a backbone, fights back, and as a result of standing up for himself, is damaged and scarred and wounded for the rest of his life. And he is played and replaced after his death by an actor, someone who he actually always wanted to be. And that actor has ambitions of his own. And in playing the character well and in seeking out his own ambitions, uh, he meets similar resistance. The deep threatens him. The deep tells him to stay in place. And again, Noir 2 also has a backbone. He's like, no, you're not going to push me around. So he stands up and he takes the wrong lessons from the deep and from Adam Bork, but he still resists and he stands up. And as a result of that, he meets his own demise. So there's this theme of with both noirs of ambition that's thwarted by your teammates and the people you're close to. Also of brotherhood, like Noir 1 was brothers with Homelander, Noir 2 is brothers with the Deep, and killed and betrayed by your brothers. There's that theme as well, and so and it's this thing where there's this curse with the suit. Like you put the suit on and your ambitions will be thwarted, you'll be trapped, you won't be seen, you won't be heard, and your ambitions kind of they meet this resistance that you can't overcome. And so I think that's the theme and the arc of the suit as a whole. That's kind of the curse and the tragedy of it. You put it on and you become subsumed by it. It becomes this cage that you can't get past.
And my final question for you, speaking of the suit, what do you think that you'll personally miss most about stepping into Black Noir's suit?
Badass. I'm gonna miss uh yeah, just being in a superhero ninja costume, like eventually you kind of feel at one with your suit. It's like you feel like you're in this cozy thing, and then you look at yourself in the mirror and like, oh, I look badass and terrifying, and yeah, being a superhero has been a dream of mine since I was very young. So to get to be one and such a cool character that has you know become iconic in his own way is really special, and I think these superheroes, these characters are gonna just like live on, after these roles and exist in their own right and be there for people to appreciate. And it's so great to have been a part of that and to be able to see that they'll have, this show and these characters will have their own legacy.
For sure. Thank you, Nathan, so much for your time. I'm excited to watch the final episode whenever they send it to me. So
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited for you to see it too.
What was it like getting back into the character for the final season of The Boys?
It was like nostalgic. It was a little sad, because it's the last season and like you come in with like all the experience and all the knowledge and of the first four. It's only going to go on for so long, and there's like a gratefulness you have and a joy, but also it's going to end and it's tough.
For sure.